morning once again. I'm Alimi Akintola. So this is MKT 320 class, International Business. So permit me to share my screen. Can you see my screen? If you can see my screen, please signify.
Yes, sir, we can see it, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, sir. So now we are here to discuss what international business is all about. So I want this class to be interactive enough. I won't like a station whereby I'll be the only one talking. So I'll be asking questions. So if there's any questions that you need to ask me too, the floor is open. So when you are talking about international business, so international business has something to do with corporate governance. And what do I mean by corporate governance? Corporate governance is a system in which the organization is being directed, controlled, and managed in the best interests of all the stakeholders. So now when you are talking about international business, the main purpose of doing business internationally is to promote a particular country. So the belief that doing business between a black nation and a white country is what we only refer to as international business. It's not correct. So we have so many ways of doing business international that it's quite different from doing a business between a black nation and a white man country. No. So if you have a business issues with a particular country like African country in Ghana, so it's part of international business. I had a case of a lady. Her name is Yetunde. So when I traveled to Uganda, I saw her. So this lady would pack beans in a nylon from Nigeria to Ghana and to Uganda. So all these packaged beans that this lady is doing can be regarded as international business because it's a business between a Nigerian and Uganda. So doing business with a particular country is regarded as international business, whether an African country or Europe or any other country in the world. So international business between one country and another country. So that's what we regarded as international business. So at the end of this topic, we should be able to vouch that we understand so many things. And what are those things? One, we should be able to explain the concept of international business at the end of the day. Then we should be able to discuss the involvement of doing business internationally. Then we should be able to explain the forces associated with international business. And lastly, we should be able to discuss the concept of globalization in international business. Without wasting much of our time, let's start with the first learning outcome. And the first learning outcome is talking about concept of international business. So international business has to do with transactions that are developed and carried out across national boundaries to satisfy the aim and objective of individuals, companies, and organizations, as well as countries. Let me just give you an instance. Look at MTN. MTN is situated in South Africa, and they are all over the world. Do you understand? That's an example of multinational business. Okay. Doing business across many countries. So the MTN, they have bases in almost all the countries of the world. Do you understand? They are transacted with Nigerian, Ghana, US, almost every country of the world you find MTN. So Zinkota et al. 2002 says international business could be and is always interrelated. It involves export and import trade or direct foreign investment. So international business could take the form of owning a subsidiary company, fully joint venture, licensing, or management contract. Let me just give you a particular scenario. When you are doing business internationally, this thing can occur. You have subsidiary, you have joint venture, and we have associates. Do you understand? What do I mean by joint venture subsidiary? When you own more than 50% of the equity share in a particular company. Let me give you an instance. Like, for instance, look at MTN. MTN has their main base in South Africa, but they cut across the whole of countries in the world. It's not only one person that owns MTN. Those people that owns MTN, if there's a particular person that owns more than 50% of the entire equity shares of MTN. I'm very sorry for the interruptions. I don't know what happens to the network, please. So, permit me to share my screen again. What I'm trying to explain here is I'm trying to explain the various forms of joint venture that we are having. So I said we have jointly control assets. So it might be jointly control liability, jointly control operations. Do you understand? So then we have what is referred to as associates. So when a particular company owns more than 20%, but less than 50% of the entire equity share capital, so it's regarded as what? And not associates. When it is exactly 50%, that's joint venture. But when it is more than, that's a parent-subsidiary relationship. So those are the three forms that we have. So going by the international business that we are discussing, definition of international business border on two issues, namely national boundaries, then two, transactions. You know, every nations of the world, they have borders. So it means that transaction between international business across border is an international business. Once you have passed from your own border to another border, so you are doing that kind of transaction is regarded as well.
Please, we can't hear you, sir.
You can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can hear me now, right?
Yes, sir.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that when you have passed from your own border to another country's border, what you have done is you have transacting a kind of business internationally. And whether the business is among nations in the same region or across two different regions is also regarded as what? International business. So international business is defined as the commercial transactions that cut across country borders. So that's what international business simply means. So now, why do we need to do business internationally? So that's the questions that needs a very prompt answers. So international business as a course of study is necessary for students, for business management and others, because every businessman needs to take advantage of the following. One of the main reasons why we do business internationally is that you need international experience to equally manage your business at home, because the whole world is now a global village. You can be in Nigeria and do business in Uganda. It's possible. Do you understand? But once you left your country to another country, do you understand? You will gain more experience internationally. Apart from the fact that you are doing business there, you still gain more experience. Like, for instance, every country has different culture. Do you understand? So every country, they have different culture, they have different background, and they have different orientations. So once you have left your own country and moved to another country, you learn their culture, you learn their religion. Do you understand? So those are the things that you need to understand before you can say you want to do business in that particular country. Because failure to do so will affect your business. So when we get to the nitty-gritty of this particular course, I will still explain what are those things that you need to understand before you can start a business in another country. So another important reasons why we need to engage ourselves in international business is that the chief executive officers and manager directors need courses in international business to cope with human resource management. You know, when we are talking about international business, you must be fast in what international business is all about. Look at what we are doing here. I'm teaching you what international business is all about. So once you have understand what international business is all about, you can try to put it into practice by saying you want to do business in another country. Doing business locally does not guarantee you that you know much about international business. You must learn how to do business internationally. So international business is needed for managers to become familiar with other markets, culture, and custom of other business markets. You know, the way we are doing business in Nigeria is quite different from the way they are doing business in other countries of the world. We have different cultures, we have different customs, and we have different religion. So once you want to do business in another country, you must be able to understand their culture. You must be able to understand their customs as well as their religion aspects. So it will equally increase the involvement of the firm in international business. Thus, its procedures and practice needs to be studied. Then the procedures of doing business internationally needs to be studied as well. Because if you say you want to do business, you just don't need to enter into that business just like that. You need to study the procedures of getting into international business. So those are the reasons why we need to study this course. So historical involvement of international business. Ball et al. 2002 that believes that international business as a discipline is relatively new, but international business practice is not new. Doing business internationally is new, but the practice is not new because this international business practice started before the birth of Jesus Christ. So Phoenician and Greek merchants used to send their representatives abroad to sell their goods. You know, during that time, they will send their representatives to different parts of the world to sell their goods. So in 1960, British East India Company had established branches in Asia. Within the same period, American traders were involved in international trade in Asia. Dutch company later joined British East Company at the same period and were involved in international business. You can see that international business practice has been in existence before the birth of Jesus Christ. So we have so many people that have engaged themselves in international business. Look at in Nigeria, foreign business can be traced to the period of slave trade. However, Europeans traded in Nigeria with their business even before independence. Some of the noticeable companies that were present in Nigeria in early 1970s include UAC, John Holt, and a host of others. We have so many of them that have done business in Nigeria, and we have so many people in Nigeria too that have done business in other part of the world. So that is that about the historical of international business. We have forces in business environment. We have external forces and we have internal forces. That is the reason why I said something the other time that you don't just need to enter into a business just like that. You have to study the procedures, the process of entering into what international markets. So if you study the procedure and the process very well, you discover that there are so many forces that may affect you entering into a market internationally. So we have external forces and we have internal forces. The external forces are the forces that are beyond the vicinity of what? The international market. While the internal forces are the forces within the internal. So international market. Though the combination of external forces and internal forces are regarded as what business environment. So now let me just give you one model about the external environment. So we have the PESTEL. And for the internal environment, we have the SWOTs. So the PESTEL analysis talks about the political environment, the economy environment, social environment, technology environment, then we have legal environment. So those are the external environment that may affect any business organization, be it international business or local business. Then we have SWOT analysis. This one is internal. So we have the strength, weakness, opportunity, and what? And threat. So when you are talking about political has something to do with a particular business. Look at what is happening presently in Nigeria, whereby we are doing election. Do you understand? So that is political. Every business organization has closed on Saturday. Do you understand? Every institution in Nigeria has closed from February 20 to March 14. So that shows the level of how political influence the business environment. So we have economy as well. If the economy of a particular country is not good, that country is in jeopardy. So every business located in that country will be in a serious problem. Look at what is happening in Nigeria presently. Our economy is not good, and it affects almost every business organization in Nigeria. That is external. It's not within the business organization, but it's an external factor that may affect the business organization. So we have a socio-cultural factor as well. Socio-cultural factors may also affect every business organization. We have technology. If the technology in the country is not good enough, business will not drive. Do you understand? Then we have legal factor. Legal factor can also affect every business organization. Institution whereby if you have issues and the legal that you can run to is bad or is not effective, do you understand? It may affect your business organization. So as we have SWOT analysis, we have strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. When we are talking about it, do you understand? We'll be talking about what are the advantage that a business owner can vouch for. Do you understand? That's the strength. What are those things that can be as a strong factor for that particular organization? Like for instance, when you have a good technology put in place in that particular organization, it's your strength. Compared to an organization that doesn't have that particular technology. Look at MTN, for instance. The MTN strength is imbibing their what? In their technology. Do you understand? So they have good technology to cut across the whole world, the whole country. So as whatever they are doing in South Africa and in Nigeria can be controlled directly from South Africa. So then weakness. What are the weaknesses that you can imagine in your business? Once you're able to know your weakness, you will be able to strengthen it. Do you understand? You'll be able to strengthen it to the extent that your weakness can be improved upon. Then the opportunity. What are the opportunities that abound around you as a business organization? You tap from the opportunity for you to get to drive your business to the promised land. Then we have the threat. For every business organization, there must be a threat. A threat in the sense that competitors is part of the threat that we are talking about. When you are doing, when you are selling something and you have like 3 or 4 people that are selling the same thing in that particular locality, they are regarded as threats. Do you understand? Let me give you something. Every business organization must pass through 4 stages. So we have the introductory stage, introductory stage. Then we have the growth stage. Then we have maturity stage. Then we have decline stage. So let me quickly explain what I mean by all these stages. Before you introduce your business to the environment, there's what is called environmental scanning. You do what is first as what? Environmental scanning. What do I mean by environmental scanning? You scan the environment to know the needs of the people. That's the first thing that we do. You scan the environment to know the needs of the people. You don't just need to start a business just like that. No. Look at what the people need in that particular environment. What are the scarce commodity or goods in that particular environment? Once you are able to identify what the people really need in that environment, you go on by producing that particular need or by meeting with the expectation of what? Of individuals or the citizens or the people in that particular community. That's what environmental scanning is all about. Once you're able to produce that particular thing or meet up with their needs, so your business has come to stay, and that business has been in an introductory stage. Do you understand? It's been in what? In introductory stage. That introductory stage that you introduce your business to the people in that particular community. You let them understand that this thing is what they really need and is now available. So you have introduced the business to them in that particular environment. So the next thing is, so far the people need that particular good or product, they will eventually try as much as possible to patronize you. And once they patronize you, your business will grow. It will grow. It will grow to a point whereby you make a lot of sales. Do you understand? When the business grows to a particular point whereby you make a lot of sales, automatically your sales has been what? Has been on an increase. So your business will now get to a stage called maturity stage. During the growth stage, you see some people, let's say they are selling this thing. Once they are selling this thing and the business is moving, they will be expanding in the sense that they will go to another places to be selling that particular thing. But when your business gets to maturity stage simply means that the same amount of money you made last year is still the same amount of money you made this year. It will be still the same amount of money that you made maybe next year. So when your business gets to maturity stage, it means the same amount of people buying the business yesterday are still the same amount of people that they are buying the business today. Do you understand? No growth in the business again. During this stage, for every responsible and intellectual businessman, you must be able to do what is referred to as diversification. You adopt a strategy known as what? Diversification strategy, because people are tired of that particular product. Or let me say, they will soon be tired of that particular product. That's how you are not making any progress again. So once they are tired, and once you adopt a strategy known as diversification strategy, so the next thing is to think of, oh, it's like these people are, I made a profit of 10 million last year. I still make a profit of 10 million this year. That shows that I have to re-strategize. By re-strategize, you diversify. What are those things that people still need that you have not done in that particular community? You do another environmental scanning, locate the need of the people, identify the need of the people. Once you're able to do that, you divert. It's not as if you are not going to sell or meet up with this need of the people again. That product you are selling, you still continue with that product, but you diversify in the sense that you identify what and what again that the people need in that particular society, and you diversify. Once you're able to do that, you have expanded your horizon. You have expanded your business. Because if you don't do that, your business is coming to a stage known as decline stage. And once your business comes to decline stage, your profit will be what? Declining. Your sales will be what? Declining. So that is the reason why all these stages must be clearly spelled out, and you must understand all these stages. So those are the forces, both internal and external forces, that may affect every business organization. Those are the forces. So the external environment is composed of this element. We have the competition, we have distribution, economic, social, and financial. All these things are embedded in the Pestel analysis I gave you above. We have legal, we have social, we have political, we have cultural, we have labor, and we have technology. Those are the things that are there in Pestel analysis. Then we have forces in international business. International business and domestic business differ from the fact that international business has three forces to contend with once it operates outside the shore of its country. They include domestic, foreign, and international. So while domestic business contends only majorly with domestic issues, but the international business domestic, foreign, and international. So then let's talk about the concept of globalization. The concept of globalization. You know, I said something at the initial stage. I said the world is now a global village. What do I mean by global village? I can conveniently talk with somebody in US and explain something to him or her that he or she will do for me as we speak. Conveniently talk to somebody in Ghana. Conveniently talk to somebody in Switzerland. Conveniently talk to somebody in every country, every part of the world. Conveniently, because all the countries of the world, they are now a global village. Do you understand? So sometimes it might be difficult for us to define what globalization is all about. In fact, it is very interesting that every day on television shows, internet, chat rooms, practical demonstration, parliament, managing boardrooms, and labor unions meetings, people discuss what globalization is all about. But the definition is acceptable, is elusive. Elusive, it is not clear enough. Social scientists discuss globalization according to area of interest. They call it political globalization. Technological globalization, we have technological globalization, etc. All the same, politics, society, environment, history, geography, and culture have some implications in globalization. Gore et al., 2002, are of the opinion that globalization is that aspect of economic globalization, the international integration of goods, technology, labor, and capital. That is, firms implement global strategies which link and coordinate their international activities on a worldwide basis. Globalization forces have 5 major kinds of elements. So before you can understand the basis of what globalization, you must be able to understand these 5 major elements. 1, politics. 2, technology. 3, market. 4, cost. Then 5, competitiveness. All these make up what is referred to as globalization. So politics is the sense that it's a trend towards the unification and socialization of the global community. You understand? Look at what is currently happening. They are doing elections. We have international observers. If the country of the world are not globalized, global village, we won't invite the international observers to witness and to observe our current electoral process. So that is politics. Then when we are talking about technology, advances in computers and communication technology have permitted increased flow of ideas and information across border, enabling customers to learn about foreign goods. Technology help us to learn so many things. For instance, I can learn something about World Quant University through their website. So it's the power of technology. Anything that you don't know, even this international business, you can learn it online. Do you understand? So technology have moved every country of the world closer to each other. So then we have market. As companies globalize, they also become global customers. Example could be seen in some Nigerian company. We have Zenith Bank, we have First Bank, we have Dangote, we have Glo Mobile, and a host of others that have gone global with global customers. In 2020, when I got to Uganda, I was looking for one of my banks, and I get to a particular place. They call it forgotten the name of the place, whereby I got so many banks there. UBA, First Bank, Zenith Bank, they are there. That shows that the world is a global village. Zenith Bank is in Nigeria, is in Uganda, and every part of the world. So you can easily transact within the banking industry, even if you are not in your own country. That's a global village for us. Then we have cost. Cost is another important thing in globalization. Economic of scale, which seeks to reduce costs, are always a management goal. You can achieve this through global product lines so as to reduce development, production, and investing costs. Sometimes we have what is economic of scale, whereby the larger you produce, the smaller will be the cost. So you can only do that when you when you try to reduce cost of a particular commodity. And once you go globalized, it will help you to reduce your production cost, to reduce your investment cost, as well as development cost. Then we have competitive elements. Competition in the international market is keener than home markets because of the diverse products or services, as well as different marketing strategy in entering international market. So those are the things that you need to know as far as international markets, international business is concerned. So now I have some, let's try to do some practical aspect of this thing. So this is going to be interactive. So I'll be calling your name one by one. Now, assuming, I'm in Nigerian, I want to do business in Ghana. What's the first step? Or what's the first thing that I will think of? In Nigerian, I'm in Nigerian, and I want to go to Uganda to do business. What's the first thing that I have to do? Hussein Ibrahim, let me hear you out. Or if you know it, if you know the questions, just try as much as possible to raise your hand. So Hussein Ibrahim.
Sir. Yes, sir. I think the first thing is to go there and go and do the quantity surveys to know what they really want and how it's going to be worked there.
So you say quantity survey?
Yes, sir.
Opatola.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Opatola is here, sir. The first thing to do is that we first know about their culture, first know about them, what they like, before we can do business. We first learn about their culture.
Okay, thank you so much. Gbemisola, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, in engaging in international business, there are some things that we need to put in place. The first one has been mentioned by Esther, which is to carry out market analysis about that particular place, which has to do with the environmental scanning. You need to know their culture, know their religions, know what their do's and don'ts, because different culture based on each countries, we have different culture. Looking at Nigeria as an example, we have three tribes in Nigeria. We have Igbo, we have Hausa, and we have the Yorubas. Looking at them, their culture differs. Our culture differs from each other. Same thing goes to outside Nigeria internationally. Looking at China, we have North China, we have North Korea, we have South Korea. They have different religions, different belief, and different culture. All of these things need to be put in place, gather necessary information concerning their culture, their religion, their do's and don'ts, on how you need to improve on your sales, what they really need that will make your business to stand firm. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all your contributions, and that's what I want. Just to buttress the point, you're making very valid points. Hello, Ojebu. Ojebu. Okay, you want to say something?
Yes, sir. I think another aspect we have to look at is the legal framework of that particular country. Because, for example, in Ghana here, you cannot just come here and just start a business, or you are bringing things into this country. There are some businesses like trading is only restricted to Ghanaians alone. So you are only coming here to distribute. So you can't just...
Are you a Ghanaian?
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Hello, can you hear me? I said, are you from Ghana or are you living in Ghana?
I'm in Nigeria. I live in Ghana.
Okay, thank you so much. That's exactly where I want to drive you to. You know, if you want to do a business, let's assume as a Nigerian now, I want to do a business in Ghana. The first thing that comes to your mind is, do I need to go to Ghana before I start my business? That's the first question. If the question is either yes or no, if it is yes, and you have the capability and some other things, other resources that we can think of to go to Ghana, the best thing is to go there. So once you are there, all those things that you people are contributing is what you first of all put into consideration. Another thing is, I don't have the strength, I don't have the resources to go to Ghana. So what's the next thing? The next thing is, oh, do I have any friends? If the answer is yes, thank God. But if the answer is no, there's what is called connection. You can connect with people, with Nigerians living in Ghana. Look at the Titus now. Titus knows Ghana at least to some certain extent. So once you connect with him, it's very easy for you to know the do's and don'ts as far as their legal framework is concerned. You know, in Nigeria, for instance, Nigerian, you can do anything in Nigeria. Although government is trying to discourage the consumption of some products in Nigeria, like for instance, what the tax that the government puts on all this wine, cigarette, and some other things is just for the governments to discourage the consumption of. But despite that, people are still consuming those commodities. There are some commodities that you cannot sell in other parts of the world. So you have to study their culture, their legal framework, their technology-based system, and some other things before you can say you want to do a particular business there. Once you have somebody that can give you a clear picture of that particular country, you are good to go. That's the first thing. So before I move on, because there are so many other things that we need to explain, but let me just ask questions so we'll be able to be on the same page. Now, let's assume we have understood their culture, their customs, their religions very well. And we've understood the kind of product that we are going to sell in that particular country. What is the next? Hello, please, I'm with you.
Yes, you have to start creating your customer base gradually.
Okay. Is that
by
all?
introducing your products to them.
Okay. Hussein, you have the floor.
Sir, after deciding on the products that you need to take to them to go and set for them, the next thing is to determine and set the sales of actions that you will use, the strategies to use to convince them to buy that particular product, and determine all the necessary things that we will need to carry out the operations.
Any other person? Adegoke.
Good morning, sir. Okay, it's afternoon already. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. So I think the person should try to introduce the 4 P's of marketing to his business, while the person will try to know the place to locate to, the price of the business, and the
So I can't hear you again. Is that all? So actually, you are all contributed excellently. Thank you for that. But after you might have done your environmental scanning and some other things that we need to do, so the next line of action is to look at the forces that may affect your business. So the forces in terms of the external forces, the internal forces, that will make your business environment. Do you understand? So the external forces is what I explained the other time. I made mention of PESTEL, political, economic, technology, legal, and some other social-cultural, and some other things. So while your internal forces are the, what is it called? Your strength, SWOT analysis, that is your strength, weakness, opportunities, and trend. Those are the things that you need to do. So having done that, let's quickly move to the next study session. Are you tired?
Not yet. No, sir, we are not tired.
Okay. Enjoying the class, sir.
So now, moving to the next study session, that's study session 2. So permit me to share my screen. In this case, we are going to use PowerPoint. So now, this study session 2 talks about international trade. Exactly. International trade. So in the last study session, we discussed about the international business and globalization. And we talked about some of the characteristics or that they may have in common. That is when we are talking about international business and globalization. Then we talk about how international business is being affected by some factors, which we term as both external and internal factors. And now to talk about the international trade. So when you are talking about international trade, you are still within the balance of international business because it's an act of buying and selling. Do you understand? It's an act of buying and selling or exchange of goods or services among people or countries over and across national boundaries. So a trade between Nigeria and Ghana is regarded as what? International trade. So this study session, we examine the concept and scope of international trade. Hence, we now learn about the concept of international trade, various theories involved in international trade, and international product life cycle. So those are the things that we need to understand as far as this is concerned. So these are the learning outcomes. On the completion of this study session, you should be able to discuss the concept of international trade. Then you should be able to explain the various stories of international trade. And lastly, focus of what? Trade restriction. So this is restriction, not direction. So then let me start with the first learning outcomes. That is the concept of international trade. International trade, as I said earlier, is an act of buying and selling among different countries. Do you understand? So international trade in Nigeria include exports and imports. In 1990, some achievements were made. International trade of goods and services were measured in dollars, which surpassed $4 million. After the year, it reached $6.8 billion. You can see the astronomical increment in trading activity. Since then, the world trade has been increasing. So in Nigeria, we have been witnessing trade deficit, mostly because we have been importing refined fuel from other countries. Instead of us to be producing, we have been what? Importing. So, and when a country is strictly importing, in the long run, that country is the country development and growth will be affected in the long run. So in most countries, international trade represents a significant share of gross domestic product, and that's one of the things that you can measure the economic growth. Do you understand? You measure your economic growth using GDP, that is gross domestic product. You can also use Human Development Index, that's HDI, and all these things. Once they are affected, that shows that the growth or the development of that particular country is in jeopardy. So international trade is the exchange of goods and services across international boundaries or territories. So that is that about international trade. So international trade, we have so many theories that talks about international trade. So there's a common question that's why do we trade? Or why do nations trade? What is the essence of trading internationally? So Bo et al. 2002 provide answers to these questions. So, and he talks about proposition of predicting the direction, proposition of volume of goods traded, which are what international trade theory attempts to address. So Bo et al. 2002 use the following theories to explain what the reasons why nations trade. So he made mention of, it discussed absolute advantage theory. We have mercantilism theory. We have comparative advantage theory. We have extra-hauling theory, that is factor proportion theory. Then we have country similarity theory. We have product life cycle theory. We have global strategy rivalry theory, and we have quarter nation competitive advantage theory. So those are the theories that try to attempt to answer the questions of why do nations trade. Theory of absolute advantage. Paul et al. 2002 reported Adam Smith as claiming that market forces should be determining the direction, volume, and composition of international trade. When you are talking about market forces, we're talking about the force of demand and what? And supply. So Adam Smith argued that under free unregulated trade, each nation should specialize in producing those goods it could produce more efficiently at an absolute advantage over. That is, when you are producing a particular good in your own country, and another country is producing a particular good in his own country as well. So in your own country, for instance, if that particular country is consuming this particular good as well, that is the good that you are producing in your own country, automatically you have an absolute advantage over that particular good that you are producing. So either natural or acquired, some of these goods will be exported to pay for import of goods that will be produced more efficiently elsewhere. So now, whatever you get from that goods that you have absolute advantage will be used to get those goods that you don't have absolute advantage, that you have absolute disadvantage over. So Smith showed by his example of absolute advantage that both nations will gain from trade. By the virtue of international trade, you are exporting a particular good. Another country is exporting a particular good. So that good that they are exporting in another country, maybe that your country needs that particular good. And that good that you are exporting in your own country, that good is needed by another country. So automatically what you are trying to do is that you have absolute advantage over a particular good in your country, and you have absolute disadvantage in another country. So that's so that those goods can be exchanged within between the two countries. in real sense, what we are trying to do is that you have absolute advantage in one good and absolute disadvantage in another good. Then another country has absolute advantage in one good and absolute disadvantage in your own good. That shows that they can be traded successfully internationally. So further example can be seen in Nigeria exportation of crude oil and subsequent importation of the refined products. We are importing the refined products, but we have the oil here. So we have Nigeria and Ghana that produce rice and cocoa as well. Do you understand? So those are the examples that we can think of. Let us look at this thing. Look at the commodity. We have two commodities, wheat and cotton. Nigerian has 2, Brazil has 8. That shows that we are less in production of wheat, but have an absolute advantage in production of cotton. Brazil has absolute advantage in production of wheat, but absolute disadvantage in production of cotton. Without looking at their comparative advantage, each country can produce the quantity of wheat and cotton shown in the table above, because we can produce 2 of it in Nigeria, wheat. Then we can produce 2 of cotton, and we can produce, Brazil can also produce 2 of cotton. In the 2 countries, Nigeria and Brazil, in production of wheat, Nigeria has little advantage in producing wheat, but Brazil has an absolute advantage in producing wheat. The same thing goes for cotton. Brazil has little absolute advantage in producing cotton, while Nigeria has absolute advantage in what? In producing cotton. If each country is to specialize in production of what it can produce more by channeling its production capacity towards that particular commodity, so Nigeria will successfully have in mind in producing cotton instead of producing little of what? Wheat. So Nigeria will now channeling all its production capacity in producing cotton. The same thing goes for Brazil. Brazil we channel its production capacity in producing wheat. So each country will now specialize in the production as shown below here. So wheat will be produced by Brazil. By channeling all its production capacity, Brazil can successfully produce 16 wheat. Same thing goes for Nigeria. Nigeria can produce cotton, which is what? 14, because by channeling all its production capacity in producing cotton. That is the theory of absolute advantage. So theory of absolute advantage, according to Smith, so we have mercantilism theory. That's the second theory here. So this is an economic philosophy based on the belief that a nation's wealth depends on accumulated treasure, usually gold. And to increase wealth, government policy should promote exports and discourage imports. In mercantilism theory, the belief is that in any nations that have that depends on accumulated treasure, such as gold, that particular country, because they have gold in their own country, they will discourage importation of goods in that particular country, but they will promote their exports. So mercantilism theory tries to discourage importation and encourage exports. If you see a country that are using this particular theory, immediately there is importation of a particular good in that particular country, the government of that particular country will put heavy tax on that particular good, so that it will be very difficult for the consumption of that particular good. So In short, in mercantilism theory, nations are encouraged to increase their exports and limit their what? Their importations. Mercantilisms were able to achieve this through more exports and less imports. Surpluses were left to be used to replace import of precious stones like gold. For example, since England had no gold mine, the only solution was to import. Modern day mercantilism is called economic nationalisms. That's what the modern day mercantilism is regarded as. What is happening is that nations and their industries should benefit from their economy. That is, industry and banks should be able to use the power of the state as both stockholders and financial, then customer and marketer to revitalize the nation's economic base. One may be tempted to say Nigeria is into modern day mercantilisms. That's a big lie. Then we have graffiti model. In graffiti model of trade, present a more empirical analysis of trading patterns rather than the more theoretical model discussed above. The graffiti model in its basic form predicts trade based on the distance between countries and the interaction of the country's economic size. The model mimics Newton's law of gravity, which also considers distance and physical size between two objects. The model has been proven to be empirically strong through econometric analysis of other factors such as income level, diplomatic relationship between countries. What graffiti model is talking about is that when two countries enter into international trade, the first two things that you need to consider is you consider the distance and then you consider the size. Do you understand? When you consider this distance and size, you are more of practical trading. That is, practically speaking, when you consider distance and you consider size, you want to know whether it's worth trading with that particular country. When you consider both those two things, you eventually understand the fact that whether it is palatable for that particular country to trade with one another. So that's what the graffiti model is trying to discuss. Then we have what is referred to as Extra-Olin model. That's it, fourth one. Extra-Olin model. This was propounded as an alternative to the Ricardian model of basic comparative advantage. David Ricardo, that's who, the person that propounded comparative advantage. Despite its greater complexity, it did not prove much more accuracy in its prediction. However, from a theoretical point of view, it did provide an elegant solution by incorporating the new classical price mechanism into international trade theory. The theory argues that the pattern of international trade is determined by difference in factor endowments. It predicts that the countries will export those goods and make intensive use of factors that are locally scarce. Empirical problems with the Extra-Olin model, known as the Leontief paradox, were exposed in the empirical test by Wassily Leontief, who found out that the United States tended to export labor-intensive goods despite having capital abundance. What this model is talking about is that if Nigeria as a country will export a particular good, that good that Nigeria will export, Nigeria must ensure that there's an intensive use of factors. What I mean by factors, we are talking about the factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneur, and ICT, that is technology. You know, all those factors that we are talking about, look at technology, for instance, is locally scarce because we are yet to get to that point. Look at what is happening currently in Nigeria in our election process. IRF, where they are supposed to load all these polling unit results, is not working for the past 2-3 days now. Do you understand? And people are agitated that they need their results to be uploaded on the IRF. Even the BMAS, the BVAS rather, that we were using as issues too. Do you understand? So we have not gotten to that point of technologically oriented nation, but we still get to that place by His grace. So now, any goods that the country wants to produce or want to export, one of the things that need to take into consideration is the intensive use of factors that are locally scarce. We have to take into consideration who you can say we want to export. Do you understand? So that is that about EO model. Then we have regulation of international trade. Is there any regulatory bodies or international organization that regulate international trade? Do you understand? Bilateral treaties were used as regulatory mechanism between two nations. We call this bilateral treaties. High tariffs become another method during the period of mercantilism. Free trade becomes main regulatory method of international trade in the 1990s. General agreement on trade treaties, that is GATT, and World Trade Organization are basically the method of regulating international trade worldwide. This has caused a lot of problems between nations, sometimes leading to dissatisfaction and discontent among nations, because there's an element of favorisms. All these regulatory bodies that we are talking about, they favor one country over another. That's what caused a lot of problems. So most nations that are economically powerful support free trade. That is, free trade in the essence that there is no restrictions. However, they go into what is called protectionism, where some good or industry are utmost importance to them. So when we are doing free trade, we have to protect the two countries. Do you understand? So some years ago, Netherlands and UK supported free trade, but today, USA, Australia, Japan, and even the UK are the greatest proponents of the free trade. So countries like India, China, Russia are strong advocates of free trade today because they are dominating the world economy. So focus of trade restrictions, economic of scale and the experience curve as production increases, the cost of production lowers. So in economic of scale and experience curve, if the production is increasing, the cost of production is reducing. That is, they are inversely related. And as the company gain experience in production, the cost of production equally continues to go down. So the more the experience the company gains, the lower the cost of what? Production. Because when you are technologically inclined and you have intellectual capacity, it will help you to reduce to the barest minimum the cost of production. So that is the reason why we have what is referred to as experience curve. In experience curve, as you gain more experience in that business environment, the cost of production equally continues to be reduced. So economic of scale and experience will affect international trade because they permit a nation industries to become low-cost producers without gaining much advantage of production factors. Then we have first mover theory. Under the first mover theory, some management theory argues that the firm that enter the market first will soon dominate it. Let's assume we have the interaction between Nigeria and Ghana. So, and Nigerian is the first mover of that particular business. So Nigeria will dominate that particular interactions between Nigeria and the other country. So new research, however, indicates that previous studies were flawed because they were based on survey of few firms and did not include a large number of the true pioneers. So most of the businesses that failed, they failed because the pioneer of that particular business have been neglected. So another focus here is the Linda theory of overlapping demand. So this theory says that international trade in manufactured goods will be greater between nations with similar level of per capita income. So in linear theory of overlapping demand, the first thing that you need to consider is you consider the level of per capita income. If you have the same level of capital income with a particular country, you enter into international trade with that country. So that is that about trade restriction and about the study session 2. So if there's any questions, reactions, or comments here, so we can do so. But before that, let us try to have a little discussion. From the perspective of this study session 2, we talk about international trade, right? So who can tell me what international trade is in a simple, straightforward answer?
Hi, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Akintola.
International trade can be defined as the activities of buying and selling between different countries.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Amen.
So, we talk about a trade between two countries, let's say Nigeria and Ghana. Who can explain why the two countries enter into international trade?
I think it has to do with a bilateral relationship. Taking, for example, Nigeria gives crude to Ghana since independence, I think so. So it's after 3 months, they will return the money back to Nigeria. And it has been, since then, it has not stopped till today.
Okay. Any other person?
Hi, sir.
Okay.
Another reason is absolute.
Go ahead.
Hi, sir. To develop each other country so that the more citizens we have what they do not have in their own country that they have in another country.
That's another fantastic point. Thank you. Another person, somebody wanted to mention absolute advantage.
Yes, sir. It's me, sir. Hello, sir.
Okay.
Yes, international trade can be engaged because of absolute cost advantage. A country is having absolute cost advantage over another if such a country can produce a particular product more than the other country. For instance, a country A has absolute cost advantage if country A can produce a commodity X more than country B using the same amount of resources, like the case of Brazil and Nigeria that was given. Instead of concentrating on what you will produce and you won't be able to produce more, wasting resources in quotes now, why not concentrate on what you have advantage over so that each country produces where it has absolute advantage on and they exchange the commodities.
Honestly, I'm impressed by all your contributions. Thank you so much. If there's any questions, reactions, comments, before we call it a day, please do so. In the absence of questions, reactions, I think this is the best time for us to call it a day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Take good care of yourself.
Thank you, sir.
In the next class. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.